Good morning, everyone. We are in Perek Yud Tet of Sefer Yehoshua, and I have good news for everyone. This is the last chapter that we're going to be dealing with the division of the land of Israel. The reason why it's good news is because, unfortunately, a lot of the places that are mentioned, we're really not sure where they are, even though there are some places that we can identify. I have duplicated for you a series of maps, and the reality is they're from different sources. They're all actually drawn by the company called Carta, which was a great cartography company in Israel. And some of them are from the Dat Mikra series. Some of them are from Carta's own historical map series. Some of them are from the Atlas of Dat Mikra. So we have a whole series of different maps, even though they were drawn by the same cartographers. There are some disagreements because whoever was the scholar behind the maps are the one who decided where certain cities most likely were, the ones that we don't know. Even though we have all of these maps, there's still going to be some cities that we have no idea where they are, except for the broad general area. A couple of words of background to just remind everyone where we are within the Sefer itself. Um, Going back to Sefer Dvarim, or actually Bamidbar, the 2.5 tribes settled in Transjordan. So that's Reuven and Gad were taken care of, and half of Shevet Menashe to the north. The reason Reuven and Gad is most important because that's two. We have to get to 12 tribes. That means there's still another 10 to go. Menashe, if you remember, we've already dealt with in the previous parak, we dealt with division of Ephraim and Menashe, which was the tribe of Yosef. They were to the north of Yehuda. The south was Yehuda. We had already dealt with him as well. And then last week we began that process of the classic Goral, of the classic lottery with the tribe of Binyamin. So if you just happen to glance at the one map with all of the tribes on the black and white map, you'll see that what that means is here is Menashe and Ephraim, Binyamin is here, Yehuda is down here in the south. So we have this big contiguous swath of land here, along with the Transjordan of Reuven and Gad, and the other half of Menashe. So the other half of Menashe is they're across from each other. God actually has land that goes straight into the Jordan, dividing them. But we have a major section of the land as well. From the perspective of the lottery, what's going to be taking place, the lottery was used in Shiloh. They went to Shiloh to do the lottery, was for the tribe of Binyamin. Tribe of Binyamin, again, is right in between Yehuda and the northern tribe of Yosef. Shiloh, where all of this took place, is right in the northeastern portion of Ephraim. You can see right here on the map is Shiloh. That's the current location of the Mishkan. And since it's the current location of the Mishkan, therefore, that's where the Urim V'Tumim is located, the breastplate with the ineffable name of God behind it, which is this Urim V'Tumim, this mysterious power that HaKadosh Baruch Hu granted, that there will be a lottery and also affirmation by the Urim V'Tumim, by the stones of the Urim V'Tumim. There were lots that were picked, and then the Urim V'Tumim as well. And last week was Binyamin. So now what we have to do is we continue with the rest of the Shvatim. But when we're continuing with the rest of the Shvatim, the next thing we actually do is going to be Shimon. And Shimon, as a result, in the opening pasuk of Yutet, it says, Vayetze Goral Hasheni l'Shimon, that the second Goral, the second lottery, went for Shimon. Now, why is it the second? Because the 2.5 tribes Transjordan were not divided by lottery. They chose the spaces that they wanted. We know that something different went on with Yehuda, Menashe, and Ephraim, with Yehuda and the 2 tribes of Yosef. It wasn't the lottery in Shiloh. It could have been a lottery in another location, but it wasn't the lottery in Shiloh that took place. And so now the lottery in Shiloh began the last parak with Binyamin. So now we're coming to the second one. The challenge with Shimon is not going to have an independent territory. And according to the Vilna Gaon, and people are very familiar with this is part of the curse that Yaakov had given to Shimon and Levi. Shimon had been said, Echalkem b'Yaakov, I'm going to divide them up within Yaakov. Afitzem b'Yisrael, I will disperse them or scatter them among Yisrael. So the reason, if you recall, was because of the attack that had taken place against Chamor and Shechem when Dinah had been violated. The two brothers, Shimon and Levi, went and killed all of the men in the city of Shechem after having tricked them. At that point, Yaakov was very upset with them. He says, "You have sullied me." We really don't know 100% what he meant by that. There's a disagreement within the Meforshim. But when the time did come on his deathbed to give the final commands to his children, that which is normally identified as a bracha, but it's hard to say it's a bracha because there are some difficult pieces. It's more of a prophecy of what will be. He uses these words, I'm going to divide them up among Yaakov. I'm going to disperse them among Israel. Now, the divide among Yaakov, says the Gra, that's the reason why Shimon's territory is actually a section within Yehuda. They don't have independent territory. They're actually two areas where there's a collection of cities that Shimon is going to occupy within the tribe of Yehuda. And when it comes to Levi, Levi is going to receive their cities. There's 48 cities actually that they're going to be receiving that are going to be spread out throughout the Jewish people. That we'll see in the next parak. So here, what we're going to be talking about is Yehuda, and the reason talking about the area of Shimon, but within Yehuda. And so the primary map which we're going to be using is this map from a few which we used back in Parak Tetvav, the one that is actually the Yehuda map. Because this will have most of the places that we know within Yehuda. But just again, to understand, it is still just this circle, basically, this region within Yehuda itself. And so that's the way the parak begins. Vayehi, one more time, Vayetze Agorala Sheni l'Shimon. Shimon received the second lottery outcome was for Shimon. L'matei b'nei Shimon l'mishpachotam, to the tribe of Shimon and all of their families. Vayehi nachalatam b'toch nachalat b'nei Yehuda. And their nachala was actually within Yehuda. Now, where were their cities? Again, not all the cities do we know, but in the beginning we do know most of them. And if you just look in Pasuk Bet, and we're not going to do it too slowly. If we were in a regular classroom, I would give you the maps and I would say, find the locations and come back in about 45 minutes. I'm not doing that to you. Okay, so the first place, and so their nachala, their portion was Be'er Sheva, V'Sheva, Molada. So they had Be'er Sheva, and they had Sheva and Molada. So if you just look on this map, you'll see where the big Aleph is. Right below the Aleph, you'll see there's Be'er Sheva. We know where Beersheba is. Molada is most likely over here. It's a little bit to the west of Beersheba. You see those three cities. Interestingly, we'll get to this in a minute. Most likely, or at least according to the Vilna Gaon again, Beersheba and Sheva are not two places. It's actually just one place. It was Beersheba, and Sheva was, let's say, a suburb of Beersheba and Molada. And the reason will be is because of a count. So whether we have three cities in the Pasuk or we have two cities in the Pasuk will make a difference. Then we have a series of cities where we don't know exactly where they are. V'chatzar, Shu'al, V'alam, V'atzem. V'chatzar Shu'al, okay, this place called Chatzar Shu'al, we're really not sure where that is. Vala, we don't know where it is. Atzem, we do know where it is, and Atzem is again in that area. And I'm more than happy to take someone to be able to help me find it. It's a little bit all the way at the south end of the map. Down here is the city of Etzem, right at the bottom. Then you have three more cities we don't know: Ve'el Tolad, Vatul, V'Chorma. We're not really sure where those are. Then we have Tziklag. Now, Tziklag we know is over here, all the way on the eastern side. The top eastern side right here on the map, you'll see there's Tziklag. There was a relatively well-known city, Beit Hamar Kavot, and the city called Beit Hamar Kavot, which we don't know where it is, V'Chatzar Susa, and also the city of Chatzar Susa we don't know. Uveit Levaot V'Saruchen. And then we also have Veit Levaot, and we have Saruchen. Again, these are cities we're not sure where they are. Arim Shloshesrei V'Chatzereim. We say there's 13 cities. Now, the problem is, if you start counting, you'll see that there's actually 14 on the list that we just listed. And so as a result, as I mentioned earlier, the Vilna Gaon says that really Beersheba and Sheva is one city. It's Beersheba is, let's say, it's the main part of the city. Sheva is a suburb of the city. The Malbim rejects this, and the Malbim says if you look at the pattern of the Psukim, they have three cities each. So why would it start out with just two cities back in Pasuk Bet? And so he suggests actually that Uveit Levaot V'Saruchen is actually just one city. That the idea being it should have been Uveit Levaot Vilevaot V'Saruchen. It should have been set up a little bit differently. The Saruchen, he suggests, is another way of saying like a Beit Shlachim, their fields around the city. Altogether, we have 13 cities within this first region of Shimon. We see how that big swath of land, even though we don't know where all of the cities are, we know where enough of them are that if you start from Tziglag, and you know it's going to include down all the way down to Edsem, so you see that Shimon was in this whole area down here, primarily the area which was identified as the first of the territories of Yehuda, of Aleph, of that Aleph territory. Then we have one more area, Ayin, Rimon, Ve'eter, Ve'ashan, and we have those four cities, Arim Arba, there are four V'chatzerem, and there are areas outside the fortified cities as well. What we do know about them is that some of them were in the Negev, were in the southern portion, what we'll call the desert, and some of them were in the Shvela, which is a little bit higher up. The Shvela is in this area over here. It's called the Shvela. Now, so there are four more cities. That's going to be the area of Shimon. Just as a side note, whenever we talk about direction or areas, they're normally descriptive of things. So, we have Mizrach, that's where the sun rises. Okay, Yama is where the Mediterranean Sea is. That's western. Tzafona, Tzafun. There's two different explanations. The simplest one is it actually comes from the same word is a mitzpeh, an area where you can see off. It was because the enemy was normally coming across the Fertile Crescent from the north. And Negba is the southern area, which we talk about in biblical terms. The reason why Negev is called Negev, it's Naguv. It's like the Negev at it's dry. Okay, it's the dry area. That's why the Negev is called Negev. It's the dry area. Continues the pasuk and all of the areas around these fortified cities ad Baalat Be'era Amat Negev until down to Baalat Be'era Amat Negev. Guess what? We don't really know where that city is. Zot Nachalat Metevin Shimon Mishpachotam. This was their Nachalah. This was their portion. Michevel Bnei Yehuda Nachalat Bnei Shimon. It was from within the area of Yehuda. Ki ayachelek b'nei Yehuda rav mehem, because Yehuda had this massive territory. V'yenachalu b'nei Shimon b'toch nachalatam, and Shimon got it within their area. We'll see later in history that Shimon actually moved a little bit, and the reason they moved is because Yehuda expanded and needed more space. So Shimon was somewhat with a territory and without a territory at the same time. Vayal hagoral hashlishi livnei Zvulun. Now, the next part comes up to Zvulun, and for Zvulun, I'm going to turn you to this blue map, okay, that you should have. There's two sides to it. So this one has the best description of Zvulun. Again, this is coming from the book of the Karta historical maps, different set of scholars. Some areas they'll agree with the Dat Mikra, and some areas they won't agree with the Dat Mikra. But the third area to be divided was the Goral Shlishi Livnei Zvulun Mishpachotam Ve'Gvul Nachlatam Ad Sarid, and their Gvul, their boundary, went to the south to the area of Sarid. Sarid is right along the southern boundary. It butts up against what we'll have is Yisachar underneath there. We'll see. So that's Sarid. Okay, so that's where they start from, and then what you have Alag Vulam Leyama, and their Gvul, their boundary went to the towards the Mediterranean Sea. Now, last week or 2 weeks ago, there was the question that came up because we remember that when it came to the question of Zvulun, that in Bereshit, we say Zvulun L'chof Hayam Yishkon, that they're going to be residing along the coastal area. Okay, now they are landlocked, Zvulun. They're definitely not, if you really want to see it real clearly, look at the map of all the tribes. You'll see the whole map of Israel. They're about as landlocked as you can get in this area. And so how do they get there. So there is this idea of liyama. One of the possibilities is on this, and this comes up from the Vilna Gaon has one approach, others have other approaches, is if I say liyama, that maybe not only did they go from Sarid, and we're starting to describe the cities that are westward, but they may have had just like a small finger of the area that went straight into the sea. That as much as it looks like Asher is blocking them, that they may have had access through Asher to a coastal port. And notice they're right there by between Haifa and Akko. This is a natural port area that they were in. So it could be along there, and that would explain it. The Vilna Gaon goes even more fantastic, and he says, based again on these psukim in the same pasuk in Sefer Bereshit, V'yarketei Sidon, that it talks about the fact that its yerech, its thigh, is all the way up to Sidon. Now, Sidon on a map is, and I'm going to, sorry to keep on popping back and forth, Sidon is all the way up here in Lebanon, okay? All the way at the top of the map is the city of Sidon, okay? Zvulun is down here. So how do you explain that association with Sidon? The Vilna Gaon, in his commentary, actually suggests, not suggests, he says, that there was from Zvulun, there was an area that crossed through Asher and actually expanded near the area of Sidon. He said it's like a thigh expands on a leg. And that's why it says Yarketei Sidon. So it could be that their access to the water, to the coast, was through the southern portion of Asher. It could be, as the Vilna Gaon suggests, it was through the northern portion all the way up here in Sidon of Asher. We really don't know. That it is a problem on how to explain it, but we deal with other problems pretty often as well in Tanakh. Yeah.
Is it possible? There's a lot of streams, like there's Mount Alexander. Is it possible it's like the St. Lawrence River in Montreal?
Well,
is there some
if you
little stream that we're missing?
I'm sure if I looked on different maps, I'd find more streams. But I guess the difference between the St. Lawrence Seaway and these little streams and vadis, okay, are really how much of an access do you have for boats? Okay, there may be water that connects and it may spill out, but I don't know. But again, we don't know the answer to that question, and there are a number of different suggestions offered to the Meforshim. It's there, but what it's
piece of land.
Okay, but it's still a piece of land. Okay,
It says can't reach the river that's alongside.
right, right, and that's a possibility. It's a possibility, and it's a possibility that went out by where Haifa is, and that's the first explanation that's offered. Now, when you continue, then you have the rest. Valag vulam liyama. The simplest explanation is towards the east, and it goes. The next city is Maralah. So you'll see Maralah is right here. Excuse me a minute. I just had Maralah is right here on the map. Okay, Ufaga b'dabashet, and it goes and it just touches the area of Dabashet, which is right above it. Okay, we're still on the southern portion of the map. Ufaga nachal, and it touches into the river, river of Adi, Asher Pnei Yoknaam, which is near Yoknaam. And if you notice, Yoknaam is right here. Okay, and then it continues. Vishav Sarid Kedma. Now we're going Sarid eastward, Mizrach HaShemesh, to the area where the sun rises. Al Gvul Kislot Tavor, and it goes all the way to Kislut Tavor, right by Mount Tabor here. V'yatzal HaDovrat v'ala Yafia, and it goes out by Dovrat. That's the quarter. It is, if you notice, it's the southwestern corner, and then it goes from there, okay, up to Yafia, and Yafia, I'm sure you're going to find it, is right in here, which is one of the Yafia is inside the boundary. If you remember last week when we started talking about Binyamin, one of the differences of these descriptions of the boundaries of the various cities that you find both in Yud-Chet and Yud-Tet is we're not as precise about the boundaries. Very often what's happening is we're mentioning key cities within the boundary itself. Umisham of our Kedma, okay, which is again still going eastward, Mizracha, Gita Chefer, and it goes to the place called Gita Chefer, which is Gat Chefer on the map. Ita Katzin, and it then goes to the next places of Ita Katzin. We're not sure where that is. V'yatza Rimon. We do have the Rimon is up here. Okay, it goes up V'yatza Rimon. Hamitoar Hanea, which is somehow described as Hanea, another name. V'nasavoto agvul, and the boundary kind of turns. Mitzafon Chanoton, and it goes by where Chanoton. There's a kibbutz by the name of Chanoton today, which is in the same area of that Chanoton. Vayu Totzaotav, Gei Yiftach El, and then it goes down here, and it goes here to like where it turns down to this corner over here. The Katat Nahalal, we don't know where those are. The Shimron, and Shimron is over here. Yad Elah, we're not sure. Uveit Lachem. And there's also, it goes to Beit Lechem. Now, obviously, this is not Beit Lechem Yehuda. This is another Beit Lechem. One of the suggestions is that, we talk about, and I've mentioned this before, Kever Rachel, from a geographical perspective, is very difficult to understand how it's Kever Rachel, because Yaakov was coming back with his family. They were coming from the north, and it was before Beit El that they go, and before Yerushalayim, where Rachel dies. And why is Rachel buried south of Yerushalayim in Beit El and Beit Lechem? And so one of the possibilities is that maybe she wasn't buried in that Beit Lechem. Maybe she was buried in a different Beit Lechem. Beit Lechem of the south is referred to as Beit Lechem Yehuda. Now, there was a city that was very, very common, a city name that was common. It was a place most likely of some kind of granary or something else that created this possibility of bread. Like the bread basket would be the way we would call Beit Lechem in English, I guess. And then it continues. And we are in Pasuk Arim Shtem Esrei v'Chatzereim. There are 12 cities, and there are areas around the cities. Zot Nachalat Bnei Zvulun u'Mishpachotam Ha'arim Ha'ela v'Chatzereim. These are the cities of Zvulun. Yisachar. Now, the next tribe which we deal with is Yisachar. Now, Yisachar, there is a couple of maps we may have to be working with. The two maps we're going to work with right now is we have Yisachar both on this map, not so easy to see because they don't have boundaries, and we also have Yisachar still on the same map. So between the two, we should be able to find all of the places that are findable. So it's Yisachar Yatzag Gvul Revi. It's the fourth Livnei Yisachar Mishpachotam, to the offspring of Yisachar and their families. V'Gvulam Yisraela. Okay, in the first place they had was Yisraela. Now, if you look at the bottom of this map, at the bottom you see Israel. Okay, this is in the area of the Emek Yisrael as well. Okay, they have Yisrael down here. Okay, and then they have the Sulot, the Shunam. Shunam, we have, you can still see on this nice big map, you see Shunam is right over here. Okay, Kuslot, I don't think it's on this map. I think it's on this one, which will be a little bit more of a challenge to find. But I know it's here. One of these maps, I don't see it right now. If someone says, please, we have Vahakuslot Vishunam. I know I found it when I was working on this the last day. Okay, you found it. Okay, so you found it right here. Shunam. You found it on the other side, Shunam. Okay, and Kuslot, if you find it, this is where it gets a little complicated. I apologize. You found it? Okay, Shunam. And Shunam. Good, thank you. Okay, and Shunam. So I'm not a cartographer. I'm just reproducing the maps that I got. The next Pasuk Chaf, the Chafarayim, which is right here. Chafarayim is right here. Okay. Vishion, we're not sure what it is. Ve'anacharat, which we have the idea it's right by the first shin of Yisachar is over here. Then we have the Harabit, we're not sure where that is. The Kishon. Kishon, we do have a theory, and if you see it, I know it. I found it before Kishon. Leah, you were really good at this before. If you can find Kishon, it'd be great. Not yet, no. That's going to be in Dan, but it is there, and I don't remember what it is. The Evetz, the Remet, the Ein Ganim. Now, Ein Ganim, by the way, is a very fascinating place because Ein Ganim, and we'll find it on one of these maps. Ein Ganim is I'm not seeing it right now, but we know exactly where it is. Ein Ganim, by the way, is the area of no, again, of the gardens. Okay, it's an Ein Ganim. It might be even the idea of a Mayan. It's a very beautiful place. Nowadays, it's known as Jenin.
Oh.
Okay, which is an interesting what was there versus what is there. It's near Shechem, right? The Ein Chadal, Patzets, we're not really sure where those are. Ufaga Gvul B'Tavor, and the Gvul, the boundary goes up by Tavor. Well, we know where the Tavor is. We know where Har Tavor. Here's Har Tavor is right here. Mount Tabor is right there. Okay, right. Vishachat Sima, we're not sure where that is. Uveit Shemesh, another Beit Shemesh. Also, we're not sure where that Beit Shemesh is, even though on this map it suggests it's up here. Okay, Beit Shemesh. Vayutod Sa'od Gvulam HaYarden, and they went off over to the Jordan was the eastern boundary. Arim Sheshes V'Chatzerim. There's 16 cities. Zot Nachalat B'nei Yisachar L'Mishpachotam Ha'arim V'Chatzerim. That's what Yisachar has in terms of their Nachala, their portion. Good. Now we're up to the fifth of the Goralot, the fourth within this chapter, the fifth of the Goralot that were done within the city of Shiloh. Now we're coming up to Asher. Now, Asher, again, is going to be one of those maps I'm going to challenge you on, and I apologize. Part of it is on this side, and part of it is on this side. Asher is going to be the tribe that is going to go all the way north up into Lebanon. And that's the direction they'll be at. And so in these cities that Asher has, Vayhi Gvulam, Chelkat, V'chali, Vavetan, V'achshov. All of these cities we have on the map, okay? And if you look, Chelkat is right here at the bottom. It's like a finger at the bottom here, right next to Zvulun, okay? And you have Chali, which is a little higher, Achshov, which is a little bit higher over there. Okay, and you also have Vatan is Betan, which is again right up here. Asher again is this idea of they're the ones who are blocking Zvulun from getting to the coast, but somehow they did get to the coast and we didn't know. Va'al Melech, we don't know where that is. Va'amad, we're really not sure where that is. Umisha'al, which we do know is right here. Okay, right above where that box is located, right at the top of it. Ufaga b'Carmel Hayama, and it comes up to right up to where the Carmel is in terms of the sea. Well, we know here's the Carmel mountain range, goes into Haifa. Right up there, they're right up to the Carmel mountain range. And that over Shichor Livnat, and they go up to Shichor Livnat, which is, you notice, right that area right up against the coast. The Shav Mizrach Hashemesh, and then it goes eastward, back to the east, Beit Dagon. We're not sure where this Beit Dagon is. There's another Beit Dagon, if you remember, which we'll hit in Shoftim with Shimshon. Shimshon, when he tears down the temple of Dagon, it's called Beit Dagon. But this is another Beit Dagon. Dagon was a god. So there were different places. Ufagabi Zvulun, and it goes up against Zvulun. The Gei Yiftachel, and it goes up against Gei Yiftachel, was one of the cities, the border cities that we talked about when we were talking about Zvulun. And at the same time, Tzafona Beit HaEmek, Uneiel, and it goes up to Neiel, it goes through the Beit HaEmek, it goes up to the Emek, through the valley, and it goes up here, all the way to where is Neiel, Veyatzal Kavul Mismol, and then it goes out through Kavul, which has a star next to it, it's a major city, it goes out by Kavul, over Mismol. The Evron, now this is going to be the part of the map that's more north, and we got two places to go more north, and I'm sorry to do this to you, these two maps, okay? So if I haven't lost you totally, we're going to be on these two maps, okay? Luckily, they're different colors, okay? And everyone's going to try to find them with me, okay? These are going to be cities along, you're most likely going to find it on the brown one, cities that are along the coast, or pretty much along the coast, going north. And so we're going to have Evron. Okay, has anyone found Evron? Evron is right, there's a little question mark next to Evron. Evron is, here is Evron, I'm pointing to it with a little question mark, Evron. Okay, it's right off on the coast is the city of Achziv. Go immediately to the east, and you have Avdon, which is the same as Evron, Urechov, and then you have Rechov. Rechov is below there. Okay, a couple of cities below. Chamon, we're not 100% sure where that is. Vikana. Kana we do have, and hopefully you'll help me find Kana. And if you don't see it, you found it? Okay, good. Okay. Then Ad Tzidon, okay, all the way up to Tzidon Rabbah. Tzidon is Sidon, which is all the way up here. Okay, really a heavy duty Lebanon. Vishav Hagvul Harama, and the boundary continues to Ramah. Harama is right here. It's northwest of the Kinneret. If you see that there's a city called Kinneret. A little bit next to it is Harama. Va'ad ir mivtzar tzor, and it goes up to the city of Tyre, which is a coastal city. V'shav hagvul Chosa, and it also has the city of Chosa. Anyone who finds Chosa gets the prize. Uh, huh?
He also has a question mark.
Okay, good. It's where near?
Yeah, right next to him.
Okay, you found it? Okay. Veyatzu totzotav hayama goes out to the sea. Mechevel Achziva, and it goes by the area of Achziva. Achziva is on the coast between Akko and Chasa. Okay, Chaseb. Ve'uma, we don't know where that is. Ve'afek, we do know where that is. See if you can find it, because I don't see it right away, but I'm sure it's Afek. You found Afek. Okay, Afek is below, right? Afek is below Akko, right? Or Rechov, not really. And Rechov, if you look, is again a little bit above Afek, across from Akko. Okay, Harim Esrim Shtayim v'Chatzerim, 22 cities through Asher. Zot Nachalat Bnei Asher Lemishpachotam. This is their areas for their families. Harim Ha'elev v'Chatzerim. Livnei Naphtali. Okay, now we're getting to Naphtali. We're coming up to the end. After Naphtali, we have one more. Yeah.
These are pretty maps. They're clearly showing 3D, but in the times of Yehoshua, the people, how were the actual borders marked? And is it possible that there are people who their fields, they lease fields and other things?
Entirely possible. If you remember, the Chumash talks about Batei Orei Choma, that people would buy in other tribes, but it would be returned in the Yovel year, unless if you were buying within a city, within a walled city, then you had a year to redeem that. Otherwise, it remained with the person who purchased it. There was regular commerce and regular real estate. The only difference was you had Yovel. Well, we do find border patrols at a later time, but we also find people guarding over their own lands. Their own lands were demarcated in different ways, but there was pretty free movement until you had the split, the Civil War. There was because they always were coming down to Yerushalayim. Okay, Livnei Naftali Yatza Goral Shishi. We're now up to the 6th group. Livnei Naftali Lemishpachotam. Now the Naftali map is probably best on this one, even though you may find it again on this one. We're still in the same area. And on the Naphtali map, we have from Chelef Me'elon B'Tzananim. Elon B'Tzananim we actually have on the map in Naphtali, and you'll help me find it, but I know it's here because I saw it. I checked it. I checked all these maps last night to make sure I wouldn't get lost in them. Okay, and if you see it, you'll tell me. It is called Elon B'Tzananim. Okay, and I apologize, I don't see it for the moment, but I'm going to keep on moving. Va'adami hanekev, and Adami hanekev, we have also on the map. If you found it. Oh, okay, she's now on this map. She's making it even more complicated for me. Okay, good. Alon Atzananim is here on this map right here. It's the Kinneret. Okay. By the way, here's Ein Ganim. Okay, according to them, even though we don't think so. Adami hanekev is here. Okay. V'yavneel. Yavneel is right over here, again, south of the Kinneret. Ad Lakum, I don't think we have Lakum on the maps. Vayhitot Sotav HaYarden went out to the Jordan, and then it continues Vishav Hagvul Yama. Now it's going western to Aznot Tavor, Aznot Tavor is again around the area of Mount Tabor. That's why it's called Aznot Tavor. V'yatzami sham Chukoka, and it went from there to Chukoka. There's Chukok over here. Ufagab is Zvulun Negev, and it touches Zvulun in the south. Uvasher Pagami Yam, and on the west was Asher. Hayardei Mizrach Hashemesh, and the Jordan River is on the east. Vare Mivtzar Hatzidim Tzer, we're not really sure where that is. Chamat, we do have, Chamat is right on, it's Tiberia probably. Raket, okay, Vikineret, and up here. These are the three cities. Chamat is named for the Chame Tiberia, for the hot springs of Tiberia, Cham. And that same thing. Va'adama, v'harama, v'chatzor, and you have Adama, you have Chatzor, where we know where it is. There's great archaeological digs there. The Harama we have on this map, Harama, Chatzor, I think is on the map because it's further north. Chatzor is up here above the Kinneret. Okay. The Kedesh, and we have Kedesh, which is above Chatzor. Okay. The Edrei, the Ein Chatzor, we're really not sure where those are. The Yeron, and then we have Yeron. And if you notice, we're going really far north. We're going to be going into what's nowadays Syria as well. Migdal El, and the Migdal El, again, it's on the map. If you notice, Migdal El is up here, right up here. And then you have Charem, Uveit Anat, Uveit Shemesh, and again, we have a Beit Shemesh up here. This is definitely not the Beit Shemesh of today. Okay, the Beit Shemesh all the way up there. Arim Tshasrei v'Chatzerem, Zot Nachalat Matei v'nei Naftali l'mishpachotam. These are their portions, b'nei Naftali, Ha'arim v'Chatzerem. Now, there is an interesting challenge, which I kind of glossed over for a moment, but if you notice, we have, going back to Pasuk 34, Lamed Daled, it says, Yehuda ha'yarden mizrach hashemesh. When we're talking about the boundaries, okay, we say that the boundary in the south was Zvulun, Asher was on the west, Yehuda ha'yarden mizracha, and in Yehuda, the Jordan. Now, what is that word Yehuda doing there? And so there's a number of different possibilities. One, the Dat Mikra brings in the name of a scholar, Grins, who suggests that there was south of the Kinneret, it's probably better to look at this map, south of the Kinneret, actually I'm going to confuse everybody with all their maps, but south of the Kinneret, he suggests there was a city that was called Yehuda. Okay, it was somewhere in the area, and there we find that Yudah had an area over here, and so when it says Yudah Kinneret, it's Yudah Yarden. I'm saying it's talking about this Yehuda, that area of Yehuda that was there. The Mitzudat David suggests actually that what it's trying to say, that the Jordan was within the boundary of Naphtali and went all the way down to Yehuda. All the way down. In other words, Naphtali somehow had the Jordan River. They had an area, and we don't see it on this map, but it's as if they had their area went all the way down. The Jordan belonged to them, all the way down to Yehuda. That's the way the Mitzudat David suggested. The Dat Mikra takes an easier place. He suggests that maybe Yehuda, it's an easier explanation geographically, a harder one in terms of the pshat. Yehuda, Yarden, Mizrach, Hashemesh. He points out that we know that that Yair ben Menashe, from his father's side, was a descendant of Yehuda. Now Yair ben Menashe is here. Okay, Chavot Yair is in this area, and so when it says that Naphtali went up all the way to the Yehuda, was really referring to the Menashe side, where they touched with the Jordan River as well. A number of different explanations. We're not 100% sure. The last group that we're going to be dealing with today is going to be Dan. Now, Dan is a little easier. Okay, this map here, it's a brown map. And the advantage of one map is a little easier to find places. Dan today, we still identify this. You'll hear many times, that's where Tel Aviv is in Dan. And many times they'll call the region Gush Dan. Okay, the area, the cities within Dan, even to this day itself. So Gush Dan is still something real. And there it says, they got the seventh portion. Vahigvu nachlatam tzar'a ve'eshtaol Now, if you're looking within the Dan boundaries, you should be able to see Tzar'a ve'Eshta'ol. You see it, it's right here in the middle. Okay. Tzar'a and Eshta'ol. These two cities are right here. You're looking on the brown is the best place to find it, actually. Okay. Tzar'a ve'Eshta'ol. You'll see them there. Ve'ir Shamash. And also the city called Ir Shamash. On the map here, it's towards the south area by those dotted lines, by the south part of the boundary. And in that south part, okay, that's the Ir Shamash. Vishalabim. Oh, this is Shalabim. This is where the yeshiva is, the kibbutz and the yeshiva, Shalabim. Okay, so they had Shalabim. Ayalon. Oh, we know what Ayalon is because we have the Ayalon highway. Okay, you have these things. It's actually, this is basically the highway 1 is where Ayalon is. And Yitla, we're not really sure where Yitla is. And then we have Ve'elon. Okay, and you have the city called Elon, not Ayalon. And you have Timnata, which is Timnah, which we do know where it is. Timnah is right here. Okay. The Ekron. Oh, Ekron, we know Ekron is one of the Philistine cities, one of the 5 Plishtim, one of the Philistine cities. And the LTK, I'm sorry, LTK we have here on the map is up here. We're getting closer to the coastal area. And then we have Vigibton. Gibton, we also know where that is, probably is over here. Okay. Uva'alat, and Va'alat is probably right below it. Yehud. Okay, Yehud, we have nowadays we know where Yehud is. Uvnei Brak. Well, we've heard of that place. So Yehud and Bnei Brak. Okay, Bnei Brak, you know, where they make Coca-Cola. That's what Bnei Brak is about. The Gat Rimon, and also at the northern part is the Gat Rimon. Umei HaYarkon. Well, we know the river of the Yarkon River. Okay, that's right up here. It's Tel Aviv. Vaharakon. And we also have the Rakon there at that point. And then we have Im Gvul Mul Yafo, and it goes including the boundary is the city of Yafo, the ancient port city, which is still around. Vayetzei Gvul B'nai Dan Mehem. However, there was an issue which B'nai Dan had. B'nai Dan needed additional space. Relative to population, if you look at Dan, Dan is again one of the smaller geographical areas that they had. And in this kind of case, where it's even Dan Mehem, they went ahead and they went out. And what did they do? Well, one possibility, Rashi says they received Nachala elsewhere. The Mitzudat David says that very simply, they didn't have enough, and therefore they went out to find more. Okay, or that they weren't able to get all of what they could do because the Amori were stopping them from conquering it. This is the Malbim, and therefore they went out of their own area. And where did they do? V'yelachamu im Leshem, and they battled with Leshem. Now Leshem is actually far away from their area. Leshem is the same city as Laish, which is all the way up here in Lebanon. Okay, so Dan went all the way up here. Now, if you think about it, by the way, we have what's the name of there's a national park all the way north in Israel. It's the Tel Dan. Okay, Tel Dan. Okay, now Tel Dan is in the north. Dan is around Tel Aviv because this was part of the area that they captured, and they moved part of their people up to that area where today we have Tel Dan. Tel Dan is called Tel Dan because there is a mound that was identified with Dan. They went ahead, they laid siege, they conquered it by sword, and they inherited it, they lived in it, and they renamed this place that was either known as Laish or Leshem, and they renamed it the city of Dan in honor of their tribe. Zot nachalat b'nei mateh b'nei Dan l'mishpachotam ha'arim ha'ele v'chatzerem. This is what they received. This is their area. Now, the next thing that happens here is an interesting thing. Vayechalu linchol et haaretz. The land has now been divided up. Everyone has their portions, ligvulota, according to their boundaries. Vayitnu v'nei Yisrael nachala liYoshua b'nu b'tocham. And now Yehoshua is given his area. Now, the immediate question is, why does it wait until now for Yehoshua to get his area? And there's a number of different answers of why this is possible. Yes. Okay, Yehoshua, first of all, is receiving an area that his Shevet, that Ephraim already has conquered. Whereas Kalev had to conquer his own city, Yehoshua is being given the city after all the conquests are done. And that's why we're mentioning it, unlike Kalev that was up front, where he was part of the conquest itself. The other possibility is um, is that Kalev was knew this is that Mikras suggests Kalev was promised that city, and so therefore he got it. Yehoshua at this point wasn't promised a specific city, that Mikras says, and so when everything was done, Ephraim says, "Okay, Kalev, here's your city." I mean, so Yehoshua, here's your city. The third possibility is very simple. He was the leader of the Jewish people. If he were to claim his city first, that wouldn't be right. He waits until the end, and at the end, he gets his city. Al pi Hashem nanu lo etayir. This was all done with nevuah. Asher sha'al et Timnat Serach bahar Ephraim ve'yivneh ta'ir ve'yeshiv בה. He requested Timnat Serach, which was in the mountains of Ephraim, and he lived in that city. Ve'ela nachlot asher nachalu Elazar Kohen ve'Yoshua bin Nun, and these are the portions, and this we had already described back previous parak where we talked about how this was done. It was done with Elazar and Yehoshua with the Kohen Gadol and Yehoshua v'Roshei Avot l'matot b'nei Yisrael, and all of the heads of the tribes were there. Begoral b'Shilo was done in the city of Shiloh with the Mishkan lifnei Hashem, Petach ol Moed, right at the opening of the Mishkan itself. Vayachalu michalek et haaretz, and they're now done dividing up the land. Now, in terms of chronology, this is 14 years after they entered into the land of Israel. It took them 7 years to conquer. 7 years was this process of division and some of the cleanup battles by the individual tribes themselves. This was finished. The next piece, which we're going to be dealing with in the next couple of prakim, are going to be the Arei Miklat. Now, just as a piece in advance, the Arei Miklat are going to be the 6 cities that are, 3 of them were already divided by Moshe Rabbeinu. God gave him the zchut to be able to be part of the settling of Eretz Yisrael by doing 3 cities in Transjordan. 3 cities now, after the cities are going to be identified in Eretz Yisrael proper, north, the middle, and the south. And then they're going to be the Arei Levim, the 42 cities of Leviim, which are going to be spread out throughout Eretz Yisrael. We'll deal with this, but I think the next time we're going to be getting together will be the Sunday after Simchat Torah. We're going to be off because next Sunday, I'm sure everybody's busy getting ready for Sukkot. There's not a lot of time to get ready for Sukkot. Chol Hamoed, I think, will take off. So it'll be in 3 weeks from now, we'll be getting back together again. The Sunday after, we should have a Gemar Chatimat Tova, and we're going to have fewer maps next time. 1 second. Yeah.
Is Shunem the same Shunem that we're?
It's Shunam. Yeah, yeah, most likely. Right. That's most likely. Yeah.
This is why I just want to know, is anybody here going up to Chewy?